Welcome team. In this video we dive into a crucial, very important global issue. The Palestine and Israel ceasefire, Gaza and Israel ceasefire, and the faces of hostages and prisoners exchanges. We have a common questions like why the exchanging of prisoners conducted into many stages. What is the reason behind that? If they want to exchange prisoners and hostage, why don't they do it in a day? Why do they take so many stages, so many segments, so many phases? What's the reason behind that? That's a question from the common man. And also, will this ceasefire lead to lasting peace? Or is it just a temporary pause before the conflict reignites? Will the war happen again? These are all the questions of a common man. So let's break it all down.
From the air, the scale of Israel's 15-month bombing campaign in Gaza is clear. This shows the destructive force of 85,000 tons of explosives. It's difficult to understand how anything or anyone could survive what aid agencies describe as appalling and apocalyptic conditions.
In the heart of conflict zones like Palestine and Israel, even other war zones also, ceasefires often bring a temporary halt to the violence. Whatever country it may be, if that considered as a war zone or conflict zones, ceasefire is the only solution to bring a temporary halt, a moment of relaxation to that violence. But what follows the next? That's $1 million question. What is next? Okay, ceasefire is going. Good, that's good. Sound is great. What is next? What follows next? What's going to happen again? Guess what? The exchange of prisoners and hostages. So why the requirement of this process? Because that carries deep political and emotional weight. These time intervals that carries deep political and emotional weight. You can watch in YouTube so many videos regarding that. You can surf in Google, you can read in newspaper, even you can go through some websites based on the authorized websites from the government of Israel or Palestine or United States or United Nations. You can surf and you can read something about it.
Outside the European hospital in Khan Yunis, bus after bus arrived from the Karam Abu Salem border crossing. Their passengers had come from prisons in Israel and the occupied West Bank, and they hung from the windows looking for familiar faces.
So the question, why prisoner exchanges happen in phases? What is the strategy behind the segments, behind the phases of these prisoners exchange? What's going to happen, man? If today they exchange all the prisoners, all the hostages, what's going to happen tomorrow? That's our question, right? So I categorized into 3 main reasons behind these exchanges happen gradually. Number 1, building trust. Number 2, ensuring compliance. Number 3, managing logistics. So regarding the building trust, to build trust sounds like something, right? To build trust. How to build trust? A step-by-step exchange. This week something's happening and next week something's going to happen regarding the exchange. And what about the third week? Okay, these are all considered as step-by-step exchange. That helps opposing sides, 2 sides are there, opposing sides, so they can confirm that agreements are being honored. Point number 2, ensuring compliance. If all prisoners are exchanged at once, if they do it today, tomorrow they cannot leverage the peace. They can't take any actions to obtain peace. There's no leverage left to keep peace efforts in place. There's no ground for that. There's no platform for that. If they do it today, if they exchange prisoners and hostages today, no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. They can reignite the war. So for keeping in a level, they are doing step by step. So what about the managing logistics? Point number 3, the safe return of individuals. That's very important. If they announce we are going to release someone, we are going to release so many people, they just announce the results, right? They announce the list of the prisoners and hostages, how many members they're going to exchange. What about their safety? Concerning the managing logistics, the safe return of individuals, security clearances. And also the important point is identifying missed persons. That should take a lot of time. and to make the coordination. So managing logistics, I consider as the third point. Let me share few information about the Palestine and Israel ceasefire, the Gaza and Israel ceasefire, and also exchanging hostages and prisoners.
Now they are moving from the stage that has been set in the middle of the square, and everyone's eyes right now are completely moving to the vehicle that now opening its doors for the Israeli captives to be released. One of the fighters have opened the door, and now Alexander Torbanov, this Israeli captive, he's well dressed, he has been given clean clothes, and he is now taking last minute photos and documentation in order to be later used by Palestinian armed factions. He's in a very good health condition. He has been awarded and granted a sort of gift from the Palestinian armed factions. They are taking photos, souvenir photos, to be later used, and this Israeli captive has been in the Palestinian Islamic Jihad's captivity. That's why now he is surrounded by the fighters of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. He is moving to the stage, possibly to greet the Palestinian crowds who have come today to the site of the handover. This has been a very repeated scene that has been well orchestrated by Palestinian factions. Now he is standing in the middle of the stage, looking at the crowds of civilians, and another captive. Now we can literally see the Israeli three captives are now coming to the stage. They are surrounded and escorted by Hamas and the Islamic Jihad fighters. All of them are now completely looking in a very good health condition, and they are well dressed. That these clothes has been widely given. But what is so interesting to point out is that they have been granted gifts with the Palestinian map on their hands. They are holding a certificate for their release with their photos on it, and with the Palestinian map inside one of these pockets that had been granted for the Israeli captives, who you can see now at the moment in the stage, and behind them is the scene of Jerusalem, the holy city that has been widely seen as a symbolic, religious and cultural identity for Palestinians.
The Gaza and Israel ceasefire agreement, January 15, 2025, is structured into three phases, three segments, to ensure a gradual exchange of hostages and prisoners while working toward long-term peace. That's very important. What's our mission and vision regarding this peace, whether it is short-term or that is a long-term? That's very important. So long-term peace, that should be considered as a brilliant idea and smart move. Also, February 18, 2025, Hamas had to release 6 living hostages, include those captured in October 2023. So on the particular date, they have to exchange the living hostages. And also February 20, today, even you can read in newspapers and also the important website, government websites, you can search something in Google also. Hamas will return the bodies of 4 individuals, including members of the Bibas family.
The Bibas family became the symbol of Israel's pain. The 2 boys were 9 months and 4 years old when a Palestinian faction kidnapped them along with their mother on October the 7th. Their father was taken too, but he's returned alive. Hamas says the baby boys and their mother were killed in an Israeli airstrike during the course of Israel's war on Gaza. Many of the hostage families accuse the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of being responsible for the deaths of captives through him prolonging this war and refusing to agree to a ceasefire to ensure his own political survival due to pressures from far-right elements in his government.
Israel have to release a specified number of Palestinian prisoners in return. They have a specific agreement, but I'm looking for the right and exact details, which is disclosed by the Israel government and also the government of Palestine. In our channel, we will release the PDF of how many persons are released by the Israel and how many persons are released by the Hamas, or the Palestinian military, the right details and authorized by both of the government. So later, definitely, inshallah, I'll share the PDF. What will happen in the phase 2? Complete hostage and prisoner exchange and ceasefire negotiations. So what is ceasefire negotiations? What is there for negotiating? The resistant group, Palestinian military, Hamas is expected to free remaining 65 Israeli captives. Israel have to release more Palestinian prisoners in exchange based on their agreement. So talks for this phase have to begin 16th day of the ceasefire. These are all the old topics, okay, the concept which has revealed in January. So the ultimate goal is to establish, that's the point we have to understand one thing, that these are all happening towards only one single goal, that is to establish a permanent ceasefire. That should be a long-term peace and also complete Israeli withdrawal. What it means, anti-Palestine activists and also Israeli military, they have to withdraw from the land of Palestine.
The so-called Netzarim corridor was created by Israel's military in the early days of the war on Gaza. It split the strip down the middle from the Israeli-Gaza border in the east to the Mediterranean coast in the west. For Israel, it was a strategic military move, giving it access, control and oversight. For Palestinians, it was yet another land grab, a corridor of suffocation, attacks and death. The Israeli army often accused of shooting and killing indiscriminately at anyone who dared to come near. Throughout the war, the Israeli government was accused of not having a long-term plan to deal with Hamas, even by members of its own military. And despite the rhetoric that Israel would stay in the Netzarim corridor and even reoccupy northern Gaza, that was political rhetoric rather than real policy.
We can say from the Gaza or other state of the Palestine, they have to withdraw completely. That's the part of an agreement. It belongs to the second phase. And what about the third phase? Exchange of deceased individuals. So both parties will return remains of individuals after proper identification. What's the key takeaway for us regarding these phases and these multiple and diverse segments of ceasefires and also exchanges of prisoners and hostages? We have to understand one thing, that this multi-phase process mediated by some influence to countries like United States of America, Egypt and Qatar, they aims to build trust and ensure structured release from the both parties. However, a long-term peace that depends on resolving territorial disputes, security concerns, political ideologies. Without these three, the cycle of violence is likely to continue. Every influential personalities, every country, whatever country they are involved as a brokering process or anything, they have to keep in mind to obtain a long-term peace. They have to keep in mind to follow these three factors: territorial disputes, security concerns, and political ideologies. These are all the facts we consider as a key takeaway from our analysis.
After the war ended, thousands of families returned to their partially or completely destroyed homes due to the Israeli brutal war that took place for more than 470 days. This family in a Shijaiya neighborhood are returning to their partially destroyed home and trying to build walls. They are trying to build hope and a vague future in an attempt to receive their loved ones after their return from the southern part of the Gaza Strip. This old Palestinian man is trying to rebuild and reconstruct this room that was burned down by the Israeli military. This is not a single family's story, but a story of an entire community.
And also historical and contemporary examples. This method of prisoners swaps is not new. Did this happen in the previous years? Yes, in 2011, Israel exchanged one soldier. The name is Gilad Shalit for over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners.
More on the actual process of these prisoners, the Palestinian prisoners, Cal, that are being released this Tuesday.
Here one Israeli soldier, here 1,000 Palestinian prisoners. These are all the agreement based on the ceasefire which has happened previous years. Similarly, in 2024 and also 2025, as a part of a ceasefire deal, Israel and Hamas negotiated phased hostages release. This is to prove how critical this strategy is in conflict resolutions. So what are the hypotheses? In our analysis, will the conflict restart? Will the conflict reignited by the both parties? It's a $1 million question. In our analysis, the concern remains: once all prisoners and hostages exchanged, will the conflict reignite? So history shows that unless deeper political issues are resolved, ceasefires remains temporary. So the political issues is the number one point that leaders should concentrate on. If they concentrate to maintain and also to manage the political issues and they can resolve that, definitely they can achieve peace. This is what we studied in the previous histories. Otherwise, ceasefires remain temporary. We can't achieve a long-term ceasefire. We can't achieve a long-term peace. So the cycle of violences resumes because the root cause, territorial disputes, security concerns, political ideologies are not addressed yet. So proposed solution from our analysis, what are the hypotheses for peace? I just categorized into three features: comprehensive peace agreements, international mediation, economic and social development. So what is comprehensive peace agreement? Negotiations must go beyond prisoner exchanges. They have to focus on political resolutions. That's very, very important thing. Without resolving the political issues, exchanging prisoners, our hostages, it's not going to work for the long term. That's what I said before. It's the next level of getting long-term peace. So what is international mediation? Countries like Egypt, Qatar, and also United Nations, they are playing an important roles in brokering and maintaining peace deals. What's going to happen in next week? Let's wait for that. And we hope for the best. So economic and social development, what is that? It sounds different. Economic and social development, the third features. When the war-torn regions need stability, they have to focus through trade, jobs, better living conditions. So economic and social development is the fundamental for resolving political issues. That's why I said comprehensive peace agreement that is based on resolving political issues. The first step is negotiations and also exchanging prisoners and hostages. But the end point is resolving political issues. In our analysis, the final thoughts and call to action, the cycle of violence that continues because deep-rooted issues like territorial disputes, still it's in a debate, security concerns, and political ideologies. These all remain unsolved. So we are waiting for getting a good news regarding solving and resolving and optimizing the territorial resolutions and also security concerns. Very importantly, political ideologies. So history has shown us that temporary ceasefires and prisoners exchange, it's necessary, but these are all not good enough. So what's the real solution? Is it diplomacy, international intervention, or economic cooperation? The future depends on how leaders and communities address these fundamental problems. So please educate yourself. That's what I like to remind everybody, that please educate yourself. Try to nurture an intellectual future generations efficiently, because these are the basic to resolve or optimize the political ideology, to nurture a strength and a strong platform for getting the comprehensive political terms. That's very important. How to see the conflict, how to analyze the conflict, how to implement some strategy to achieve a best solution. What do you think? I'm asking you, can peace ever be permanent, or will history keep repeating itself? If you have anything to share, put in comment. Criticism, most welcome.